were not put in for new programs, then that aid would be subject to the commissioner coming out and saying that's not appropriate. The thing that you need to understand is that for those districts that receive this contract for excellence, if that money was subject to voter approval, it probably would not pass. So therefore, this money that is given, this additional foundation aid, is to be considered a grant in aid for school districts, which means it's not subject to the contingency cap. So, operating under a contingency budget, grants and aid are excluded from the calculation of the contingency budget cap, thus allowing the districts to spend the increased foundation aid pursuant to its contract for excellence without it being subject to the 4% cap. And that's very important. The next thing that I want to try to shed light on for you is basically how much money we're talking about here. The new, without going through the whole process of explaining to you, looking at the 2006, 2007, and the 2007 and 2008 state aid, because you don't have the figures in front of you. What I can tell you is that looking at you take the old foundation aid that you had last year, which in our case was $8,757,465. You can take 3% of that, and then you would add that, and that would be the amount for the contract for excellence aid. In other words, the governor gave us a huge portion of money. But what he said is you can only use 3% of that money for operational aid in your budget. So, to try to simplify that, for 2007, 2008, what we have for contract for excellence is $754,645. We are allowed to use 25% of that amount, which comes out to $188,661, to sustain our existing programs, new programs that we put in last year, some of the things that we talked about at our budget workshop, such as Lake Clear, Model UN, the driver's ed program. Those were sustaining those programs. We're allowed to use the money for that. Then the new money, $565,984, has to be spent on new programs. Now, basically, what I did and what I've been doing is talking back and forth with state ed, taking a look at the new programs that we put in place to make sure that the state ed would agree that these meet our contract for excellence. The contract for excellence is not an option. It's something that we were selected for and we are part of. And I believe that most of the things that we put in this year's budget, one being last year, if you recall, we had class sizes that were extremely large and we were going to move students because we didn't, for expense sake. We put those two teachers in. We're keeping those two teachers in. That helps us to reduce class size. That's an expense of $130,809. That is an approvable expense. The RTI program that we're looking at, with the common planning time that's built into it, is an expense of $195,313. That also meets the criteria for the contract for excellence. We added $6,000 in addition in textbook aid. That also meets the criteria for the contract for excellence. Then we've been making an effort to bring our students back, setting up a special ed teacher and an aide. We're going to put a new special ed classroom next year. That's the one we're looking at. That is for $183,798. That also addresses two important issues. If you remember, one of the most important things is to work for our students who have disabilities, and it also addresses the fact of trying to reduce class size and bringing students back. That's a new program. That meets the criteria. We have added $30,305 to our computer to our technology, to our hardware. Excuse me. And that also meets the criteria. And then we also have in the middle school, we're looking at, with our special ed, 2 self-contained classrooms, trying to develop a new program and bringing in a teaching assistant to help enhance that program, and that's $23,458, and that also meets the criteria. Okay? With that, remember what I said was we had to have $565,984. We have $569,683. Give or take, if they cut a little bit, I think we're going to make the contract for excellence. And now we have to come up with $188,000 to sustain programs, and I think we're very close to it. And I just wanted to explain that to you because you probably will hear that term, contract for excellence, and since we have such a wonderful audience, I just thought it would be a good opportunity to bring that out to our community. So that's where we are. We're still working with the state ed. If the state ed should happen to, when it goes to the commissioner and say, no, we don't approve of that particular program, then we'll have to go back to the drawing board. But we were very fortunate for the first time to get so much aid and to be able to offer new programs that we haven't been able to offer before. And that's the reason we're able to do it. Okay, the other part that I was asked to report back on was taking a look at the child care. And basically, I looked at several things. I looked at what districts currently have later start times and have child care. What is the child care times that are there? That was just one of the pieces I looked at. Beekmantown starts at 9:05. They have a child care, independent child care from 6:45 to 9 o'clock. Plattsburgh starts at 9. They have a child care at Beaumont, Oak, Bailey, Cumberland Head from 6:45 to 9 o'clock. Peru has one at starts at 9:05. Saranac has a PALS program, and Shazy also has a child care program. That information I was able to obtain from Kevin Colleen, who is really in charge of the Y in Plattsburgh. And I did talk to Kevin, and he is very interested, if we are interested, in providing a similar type of program in both of our elementary schools. And basically with the Y, there are some stipulations which I think provide a quality program, and that is the ratio. It's 1 instructor if the children are younger to every 10 students, 1 to every 15 if they're older. The program, if they were to come into the school and do it, would be from 6:45 until 8:30 or whatever you want. They normally charge $115 a month, but because unless you belong to the Y, if you belong to the Y, it's only $100. I talked to him and I said, look, this is a transition. Should we ever decide to go this way, would you consider, since we're so far away, and a lot of our people would not participate in the Y, would you consider $100 a month? And he said, yes, he would. So that's only one piece. I also met with Jamie Basilier, the child care coordinator for the Council of the North Country, and Nikki Malinsky, who's the director of the Rouses Point Learning Center, and Mike Lahar, who's a board member of that Children's Learning Center. And we met last Friday, and they are very interested in helping, should we go in the direction that we had talked about, in providing support. They will not know exactly how many slots they have until after the 24th because they've put out a survey. The exciting part of this is that they are looking at opening up a similar center in Moores this summer. They would start with a summer program. As a matter of fact, they're going to be meeting with the church council tomorrow night. And the other real exciting part is I received a letter from Janet Dupree telling us what we had in school aid, and we knew what we had with the overall aid and the increase over the base, but the universal pre-kindergarten aid has increased over $95,000 for next year. That means in talking to Jamie again today, letting her know that basically it's $2,600 for a child to put them into the preschool, the program. That's just the preschool program, not the care program. Right now we have about 30 students in the Learning Center in Rouse's Point. We would be looking at, with this aid, duplicating that in Moores. We could provide an additional 30 students for pre-K instruction in Moores. And I guess they're looking at the center right down the road from the school. And they're going to be meeting, they say that building is in excellent condition, and hopefully they will be able to speak to the parish council tomorrow night and work something out. Should that happen, they also said they would be very interested in providing a before care as they do now in Rouse's Point, should that be the direction that we want to go. I called Christian Deloria from Social Services Child Care Department, and she's looking into possible grants. She had me call Colleen Eager in Albany, and in talking to Colleen, she said that there is money in startup grants for service providers that provide the service, and it's under the Health and Safety Startup Grant or the 21st Century Grant. I've also checked into, I've had a lot of conversations since our last meeting, and a lot of people said that other individuals in the past have said that they wanted to have, a few students at their house and watch a couple kids, and then they were told by social services that they couldn't do this, that was not acceptable. The criteria is this: if it's less than 3 hours, anyone can watch a number of students, and they can even charge a nominal fee. That was the criteria that I was looking for, and it was stated to me not only from the Y or from the Council of North Country, it was also stated from the social service in Albany. I made sure that that was clear, because I know that before other people had said, well, a couple of people watched the two or three kids, because if you do it over 3 hours, you basically have a limit as to what you can, and were reported, and it caused a great deal of hard feelings. So I wanted to make sure that I would get accurate information on that. The other thing that I was hearing at our last meeting was there is no child care in this area. So I went on the web. I also talked to Jamie. She told me what to do. I ran a list of all the child care providers that are in our district. I did it by area code. In the 12919, there are 6, which is Champlain. In the 12979, there are 3, which is Rouse's Point. In the one that borders close to us, and we have some transportation there, 12921 Chazy, there are 3. In 12958 Moores, there are 1. And in 12959 in Moores Forks, there are 3. My suggestion, before I would even put any of these names out, anyone can have access to these or on the web, would be to probably, depending on what direction we go, to meet with these child care providers and explain and see what they would be willing to do. Maybe some might be willing to do this, some might decide that they don't want to do it. I don't know. But it wouldn't hurt to have a conversation. There are positives with the Y program. One thing with the Y program is they have a limit per assistant. The students are involved in activities, or they're doing homework, and the number of ranges based upon their age. It's an outstanding program from what I've been able to gather from the other districts that have it. It is totally independent. All the school has to do is provide the facilities for it. I guess we still have 4 months to work out the details. We did begin this discussion, I believe, in plenty of time to talk about this. And I guess at this time, I would make the recommendation, since what other conversations I've had, I've been hearing pros and cons. Some want it in the afternoon, some want the care in the morning. Would be probably to put out a survey to all our elementary parents and to see exactly how many are interested in afternoon care and how many are interested in morning care. Then my recommendation would be to sit down with a couple parents who would like the afternoon, a couple parents who would like the morning, with both elementary administrators, with 2 or 3 board members, and to take a look at what are all the possibilities that we could brainstorm as far as making this this work. Because we do have to have the common planning time. We would have to take a look at all the different scenarios and list the positives and the negatives. Then the information would be brought back to the board, and then the board would have the final say.
Okay. We're now open for opinion and concerns from the audience. If you would please stand up, state your name and the town you're from. Go ahead, please. Going once.
Well, I got it.
I'll stand up.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Tammy White from Champlain. There's a number of parents that have been doing a lot of research, and obviously by showing up, we're very interested in not making it just about daycare in everything, what necessitated us needing an RTI. So it's taken a lot of research to find what should be readily available. I don't know if you guys have checked out the New York State Education website lately, probably often. What we found is that this, and I wasn't aware of it, and I'm pretty sure none of the people that I've been speaking to were aware. This is the 4th year that we haven't met academically in ELA middle school. Am I interpreting that correctly? So that's what necessitated the RTI.
Also, the high level of student identification with the...
The 18% that you mentioned.
Right.
Okay.
And, okay.
So there's a couple of different things that we've discussed, we've researched, we've done a lot to see what we can do as parents to work together. So there's a couple of different issues. There's childcare, which is a real issue, both affordability, availability, so on. But the real issue is the half an hour that's used for the common planning time. I can't speak for everybody, but the ones that I've spoken to are in agreement that we don't feel the children really can afford to lose half an hour a day. The program, granted, will be amazing, but targeted to those that need it. And from what I was reading, we're now going into corrective action. Is that correct?
We're in senior year 2. We're in senior year 2.
So the next step, I didn't think I'd be nervous, but a little bit nervous.
Be restructured.
So it's saying that so next year we go to corrective action, if what I read is
If,
correct.
assuming that we don't meet the
If we
criteria.
don't meet the criteria, the annual year of progress is what they're using as the criteria. Okay. So if we don't meet that, and we continue to receive Title I funding, which we're doing, we go to corrective action for the following year. And it said on the New York State Department of Education website, in addition to offering choices and supplemental services, these schools must also implement at least one of a menu of options for action specified under the No Child Left Behind. Actions include the replacement of staff who are relevant to the failure of making AYP, institute a new curriculum, or extend the school day or year. So I'm just trying to figure out how taking a half an hour away is meeting what we have to meet next year if, again, we don't meet annual year of progress.
The RTI program, okay, which is the response to intervention, part of that component, and if you remember when I read the contract for excellence, you have to have best practice. Part of that component is common planning time. There needs to be common planning time. We do still, even without that half hour, have the longest elementary school day. So it really is not going to impact that way. I think that if you don't have the common planning time, then the program doesn't stand a chance of being successful. What you have to understand, and of course, you're absolutely right with the idea that it's the second, third year that we're looking at it, and that's probably why the state says we need to put money in and provide contracts for excellence, and we need to do it in such a way that new programs will be introduced that will be successful based on current research, okay, and best practices. So I guess the point that I'm making is if we are going to put these programs in, we need to put them in the right manner if they are going to have a chance of success. So.
So Samantha Blaine. I have a couple of different thoughts. I know you want us to support the program, and we want to support the program, but my concern is, we're doing a lot of talking, we got the letter seemed like it was all happening, the vote was made, and now we're backtracking to do homework that I feel like should have been done before, the surveys, this checking daycares, that sort of stuff, should have been done previous to the letter even going out. The survey should have come first. So my concern is if we're handling this in this manner, and we're on the list, as we refer to it as the list now that we've all come to learn and love in the last couple weeks, I'm concerned that the communication on what we're doing to get off the list is being handled appropriately, that parents are being made aware of the rights we have through No Child Left Behind. There's supposed to be an ongoing dialogue. It's my reading, when I read it, that there's a lot we should know that isn't available or isn't shared as readily. I would have loved to.
That's incorrect, Samantha, if I can say that, please. There has been a letter has been mailed out each year, because that's
For all the
mandatory.
parents?
It's for the school that has been identified as the Cine School, which has not been kept a secret. You're talking about the SES. We have done that. Basically, we were involved in that process. Mr. Brandell and I met. We had a teleconference with people from Albany. Basically, what SES is supplemental educational services. And the state has like 50 or 75 providers on their website. We actually had to send a letter to every single one of these providers to see if they were willing to meet the needs that we had. A lot of these were just internet providers, and we said we would want to have somebody on site because we're dealing with our children. I think as of yet, I think we only have one that meets the criteria. And with that supplemental educational service, it is only for those students who are in the economically disadvantaged category that would qualify, and there's only a certain amount of money allotted for each of those children. So we have been on top of everything. So, are you saying, are we going backwards? No, we're not going backwards.
My concern is that we need to have this dialogue ongoing and between sitting in this group and all that, and we want to, and we're here, and we're willing to listen and understand, and we're trying to educate ourselves. But I'm not seeing, this is just an example of this scheduling change and how it's going to affect our children and the whys and the questions. And it's not just daycare. To me, it's bigger than the daycare now. It's much bigger than that in my mind. And I don't think just giving us a list of the daycare providers is necessarily what we all are looking for right now, myself especially. I'm looking for a reason, some help, a commitment that we're going to get past this. And right now, when we dug for the information, we found it and tried to understand it. And my niece is in the middle school, and I don't know if my sister got a letter saying that when she started in September, because she didn't know. And granted, we don't always, a lot comes home.
But we didn't really know. Okay, I will address that.
I know, because it's a delay in getting there is a delay.
Well, we didn't get the information until just about November, December before it was confirmed. First, we got the information. We had made it. We were okay. We were clear. All our schools were clear. Then a month later, we get the information saying, nope, the middle school didn't make it. So we had to wait till there was a definitive answer before we would go out and actually inform parents. You don't inform parents about something that is not complete. And that's been part of the problem. I mean, as far as getting the information out, the state is now working with this data warehouse, which is a brand new system, and there's glitches, and they're trying to work those glitches out. And because of that, we don't even have the school report card as of yet. We were told it was supposed to be on the 12th. And, we went there to try to find that information. So it's not like we're holding back information.
But I think we need to improve our dialogue. I really do. But you have a prime opportunity now that you've got a willing group that's here and willing.
Samantha, that's why I'm taking this opportunity with Calvin to talk about the contract for excellence.
But I guess you tell us that, and we don't know. Then we leave here, and it's sort of, now what? What do we do as parents? Do we call you every day and talk? I mean, what do we do? I still have an issue with the bus staying at the school, but how do we fix this long term? Our district.
I guess I'll say this. I have been available almost every single month for an hour, sitting in my office, and it's been announced. And do you realize, in the 4 years that I've been here, I probably had Jan, right? Did I say Jan? I'm sorry, I thought Jan was here. Yeah. Right, Jan? Yeah. Jan has stopped in to see me. I think I've probably seen 4 or 5 people. And I've been here to talk about. I said, anything that you want to talk about, be it, issues with the curriculum, be it anything at all, I'm here. And it's been advertised, and people haven't stopped in.
Hi, excuse me, Sharon Richards. I think what the problem is, because we were just discussing this outside in the hall, a lot of folks, even though we heard about RTI in the news, we heard about No Child Left Behind, until your child is affected, you really don't pay attention to it. And when everything came to light was when the time change for the school came out, and that's when everybody went up in arms. We know you have to do this, there's no way around it. The thing is, I just had a brainstorm when we were talking about this, and this has come up around a few of us when we were talking. Would it be possible that you do your common planning at the end of the day? The kids still start school at 8 o'clock. Because of this contract for excellence, this is Title I money to help you achieve, to get your learning levels all back up. Why can't the school, because according to what we have found out, you are supposed to put in place, if needed, if the public wants it, after-school programs. So the people where these children aren't going to be going to their regular daycare till later on, they can stay in school that half hour, some kind of program for after school at the school, catch their buses at 3:15. Your common planning has been going on since 2:45 and after, and then they're gone. And then nobody is disrupted, nobody's daily schedule, the kids go to school for 8:15, and at the end of the day, there can be that after-school program for the kids that have to stay.
There's possibilities, and that's why I'm suggesting,
In
I'm not suggesting, I'll go back to what Samantha said, and again, this is the board, I don't want to do all the talking. The fact is, and you're right, the plan is in there, it's put into the budget. Now, it's how do we best affect it? We're not changing the plan, okay?
Changing what plan, sir?
No, the RTI.
Right, you
Yeah,
can't.
no,
You can't.
right. And so, I guess, what I'm saying is, some of the things that you speak about, that's why we need to sit down in committee, we can talk more freely about. Like when you say start at 8 o'clock, you really have to take a look, are we talking contractually? Are we changing people's
Well,
time?
8:15, the school day starts at 8:15.
That's right. So
You keep
there
that
are
on
different-
schedule. Your contract, your teachers are done at 3:15, so you do your RTI common planning at 2:45 to 3:15. You arrange for an after-school program for the children that their parents don't pick them up, they don't go home, they don't walk home or whatever they do. And at 3:15, they leave on the buses. But while you have had your common planning, the kids, there's an after-school program that they can participate in, whether it's playing basketball, whether it's reading their books, whether it's even as a group we would like to the community. There was 11 of us that met last Sunday night, and I'm sure there's a number of other people that would like to help. We know this is something, it's not just the teachers, and we don't want to pit ourselves against the teachers. We have to do something to rectify this problem. We can't continue on. Even though my children aren't affected, my grandchildren, other people's children are. And our school is getting labeled, we're going to lose a lot. I mean, this government can step in and teachers are going to be walking out of here without their jobs. We read all this online. There is a lot of implications. We want the best education we can get for our children. We want good teachers here. And we know the community has to work with you to make this happen. And I don't see what the problem would be to do something like an after-school program, and then it disrupts nobody.
Well,
I mean, the after-school program would be that last half hour while you have your common planning time. And you'd be discussing what's going to happen for the next day.
that's the only reason, that's why the suggestion was made that we form a committee and look at all the different possibilities and look at which ones would be the most beneficial and bring it back to the board and let the board make the final decision. Because that's one option, there may be other options out there, but unless you sit down, as you were saying, Samantha, and just start to talk, those options don't come out. What happens is that one person has one option, another one hasn't, and then you're at odds, and that you never achieve anything. I think with the dialogue going on the way it's going on, if we can set up a committee and get further and get more research and more involvement with the stakeholders, and that's who we need to have on that committee is the stakeholders, so then, we can make a decision that'll may not suit everybody exactly, but it would be, something that everybody can live with. So,
And you also said you wanted to do a survey
yes, I
of the
do want to do the
elementary
survey.
schools, all the parents, give them the opportunity to find out, you know, maybe it is better for everyone at the end of the day, but maybe it's not. And we want to hear from everyone, or at least give them the opportunity to say if it's better. Maybe,
Well,
I mean,
see,
a
I
lot
don't
of
see
people,
that
it
you're
may
gonna
not
get
affect.
a lot of parents complaining about it being at the end of the day, because their kid's gonna catch the bus at 3:15 and come home. If the school has provided an after-school program for that half hour, then who's gonna have a problem? Because nobody's time schedule is changing. They
Right.
have daycare in place now for
Only one
afternoons.
thought though, you're talking about let's say Moore's, you're talking about 350 kids without any supervision from a teacher, because they're all gonna
No,
be.
your after-school
No, wait a minute.
program,
Aren't they all gonna
They'll
be
be
in
sitting in
common
the
planning
bus room
time?
like they normally do from,
So you wanna
3
go
o'clock
back to
till-
half an hour?
your after-school
Okay.
programs, I mean, there's people that could volunteer their time. You have teachers' aides that have to be there till 3:15. You have some teachers, where are the teachers for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade going to be while the kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd are having their common planning time?
They're gonna be planning also.
Well, from what was said in the paper, it was geared at kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd.
The emphasis on the, into the classrooms themselves for the instruction, but everybody has to plan, because it follows through. It's-
Right, when you
Yeah, go
say
ahead.
common planning time, that's every teacher in Moore's and Rouse's Point that are gonna sit there and make up their plan for the next
No,
day?
they're not gonna make up their plans, they're gonna be talking with each other, there could be holding parent conferences, there could be situations where, where one of the resource room teacher has met with the classroom teacher to talk about what best took place that day. You also have in there your AIS provider, they have to meet. That AIS provider is really going to be meeting in several different classrooms, so they need several days so they can talk to all the staff and readjust their plans, and everybody's gonna be working.
But there's only 3 teachers that would be affected in
No.
each school, kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade.
Those are grades, but there are 5 levels.
The teachers.
5 teachers.
Well, 2
So
floors.
5, and then there's 3 teachers in each of the classrooms. Yeah, there's quite a few. There's quite a few that are impacted.
and this is definitely gonna eliminate the 9 half-days and 3 full days that the superintendent, for staff development
It will
days.
not eliminate the superintendent's days, but it will eliminate those afternoons that we had put in for a common planning time for the elementary. Yes.
Is it possible to include in the survey, okay, is it possible to include the option of the 4 hours versus the 2.5, the 4 hours, what we currently have for the teachers to have a common planning time, as opposed to the half an hour lost each day? Again, I'm.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that would not be sufficient to run the program in an effective way according to best practices. You
And
need
it
to
is a
have,
structured half an hour. I'm still
Yeah.
concerned. I have 4 children, and I'm concerned, one newborn, but 3 in school.
Mhm.
But I'm concerned about them losing half an hour. I realize we do have the longest day, but we're still not meeting academically in the ELA area with this. If it's structured and if it's, I admit,
It will
I
be
didn't know
structured. It
about
will be
this. I'm
structured.
just learning and doing my research. I should have been involved.
no, it's okay, and I appreciate it. It will be structured, but the thing is, you need to have some opportunities to take a look at what you're doing and to assess it and to evaluate it and to make adjustments. And that half hour is crucial. And we're asking teachers to teach from 8:15 when they come in, to 3:15 in the afternoon with no collaboration. And that does not benefit our children at all. They need the collaboration time.
Will the Morris and Rouse's Point teachers collaborate together as well?
They do that during the staff development days. That's why when you asked, will those superintendent's days, you're entitled to 4 superintendent's days. Those are staff development days.
Why can't the collaborating time be spent when the kids are at gym, library, lunch? Why can't the teachers make arrangements with the other teachers?
If we had meetings, I could explain all that to you by showing you a master schedule and how you have to organize things because.
Explain it
you-
now. Please.
Exactly.
We're
I-
here.
I mean, you can go on any website,
I would
and
be-
taking time away
after-
from our children. We need to know. We need
After
to
the meeting,
explain.
I'd be more than happy to, because we do have a board meeting we have to go through. I'd be more than happy, or set up another night, or I don't have a problem if you want to come in for a meeting. And that would be a general type of meeting where we could talk about anything academically, look at schedules, and I could try to explain to you a lot of things. I have no problem in doing that.
The next step.
I'm sorry, Mr. Novacek.
Could I just suggest, I think we've not done a very good job, though we had two very good presentations at board meetings in the past regarding RTI, and I suggest as you're checking out SED, do a web search on RTI. Really,
We have them.
it
We have
really-
with all RTI.
It really is an intense educational structure. Notwithstanding, you are that half hour a day collaboration, but the gains on the other 5.5 hours or whatever is far outweigh that loss. And ultimately, the collaboration, I think, is a good thing because those professionals need the time to say, you know what, this person's ready to move on. This has been working with this individual at this level. We think they're ready to move them on here. It also gives time for the professionals to say, in a higher group, we're seeing some regression here. We're going to have to step in and intervene a little more intensely. Those kinds of discussions need to go on a regular basis. Hence, the need for that collaborative time. But do take a look at that. I'll finish by saying I think the suggestions you've thrown out in terms of surveys, the need to bring people together to talk about how we can best meet the needs, first of all, of the children and their performance, second of all, of the community in terms of what's doable and what's not doable. I would suggest that, to my colleagues, that we consider Mr. Hebert's recommendations. But believe me, I've seen this a lot. The RTI, I've been a strong proponent of it over the last 2 or 3 years. We are not going to lose anything at all. This will be enhanced instruction, and over a period of 2 or 3 years, I think we're going to see the benefits in terms of the school's performance.
As in the
And
children's
tangentially,
performance, you mean?
it's also an enhancement to our strong students. It gives them added attention and further challenges that the heterogeneous class sometimes holds back that brighter kid. But I'm glad if you did look at RTI. It's really starting to be considered the state of the art in education in terms of remediation as well as very dynamic instruction mode.
Carrie, you're
Thanks.
next.
Yeah, I guess what I would ask the board then is what Mr. Hebert is suggesting is that we get together as a group, a committee, whatever you want to call it. We sit down, not at a board meeting, just in informal discussions about what's going on, where we want to go. And I really think that we need to identify next steps tonight and say, okay, we're going to meet in 2 weeks at such a place, at such a time. Let's set definitive things now. Let's not just say, let's do this. Let's decide when we're going to do this now while the people are here, so that way we can inform other people who may not have been able to come tonight to say, hey, the board and Mr. Hebert has agreed to sit with us, discuss this out. If you're interested, this is where we're going to meet, this is when we're going to meet, and these are the next steps that we're going to do. I really think we just need to establish the next step.
I would agree with that, and I would like to say that if we go with the survey, which I think we should, because we only have a small percentage here, that we should get that survey out. Today's what? By Friday? Would that be sufficient? I'll try to get a survey out, and we'll send it home to all the elementary parents and ask them to return it to us on Monday, and maybe before the end of next week, we'll set up a meeting.
Okay. The reason why I'm pushing for this as well is that I have a whole family of bus drivers that are affected by this because of changes of bus schedules, changes of times that they're going to drive, not just daycare issues and all that other stuff. I know that the bus drivers also have a union. They're also on contractual time. If they're over their time for the day, then it becomes an hourly rate. So are we going to incur those costs if the bus drivers go over that? I want to know how all of this plays out.
Absolutely.
St. Mary's, are they starting at the same time as us, or are they going to be affected, or are they going to start at their own time? How does that busing affect everybody? There's a whole lot of other factors involved versus Northeastern elementary schools are going to start at 8:15 versus 8:45, and okay, fine.
Right.
But there's a whole other ramification to all of this. Bus drivers who have other jobs as well, that's right. What happens to somebody who says, okay, now you gotta be at 8:45, start time, and drop your kids off, but I'm usually at work at 8:30. You know, what are the ramifications of their positions as well? You know, and we're very fortunate to have the bus drivers we have now that we may not have if we do a change like this as well. And I know how, and I know how big of a deal it is to find bus drivers. I know. My father's a substitute bus driver and he gets called all the time. You know, we don't have anybody to drive the school buses now. I'd like to keep who we have. Thank you.
Okay. Very good question.
Well, didn't you have a plan, my name's Paul Valley, didn't you have a plan at the meeting before when you approved this? Wasn't this approved and a done deal at 8:45? Somebody must have made a motion, somebody must have seconded it. They said we're gonna start at 8:45, so what was your bus plan then?
The bus plan has already, and I've already talked to the association. It really does not impact, and we were looking at a memorandum, so it wouldn't, but I don't want to get into those details, but again, in our discussion, I'd be more than happy to talk about some of the discussions that we've had.
Anyone else?
Just a quick
Yes.
comment, I'm just wondering, have you checked with Shazy? You didn't, that wasn't on your list of people, because Shazy has a very successful after-school program.
Yes, they do. It's a
And if-
nonprofit.
And if you're looking at after school, that'd be a good time for the kids to do their homework, rather than if you had something in the daycare in the morning, well, they shouldn't be doing their homework at 8
That's
o'clock,
right.
they should be doing it at 3 o'clock.
The Y said that basically they do both. They do before and after, but there is a charge. And that's what we're trying to do, seeing if there's any funding available that we can use as startup costs. But
Yeah, and I know
there's a
just,
charge.
just 6 miles down the road, we've got a successful program.
Right.
Let's see what they're doing.
Mhm. Very good.
Any other comments before we close the discussion? Well, I know someone asked what they could do, and as parents, you showing up and being here to discuss this is certainly a great first step, and read to your kids, model it, let them see that you're learning. All we hear now in the education field is how you have to be a lifelong learner. And our children are facing a world where they won't have one job from cradle to grave. That they're going to be changing jobs. And if they see their parents modeling the reading and the learning and the love of learning, it's a wonderful thing. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Linda, one last thing. I know we
Sure.
discussed the meeting of everyone, and I know Mr. Hubert said he was going to get the surveys out by Friday, and then potentially the meeting set up the week after next, right?
That's good.
Okay. How are you going to notify us of that?
Can there be something published in the paper?
Right.
Something published in the paper.
We could do that. Sure, we could. Shan, we can take care of that, right?
Community news on the Channel 5.
How about the website? Can we get
And the
something on the
website,
website?
yeah.
And you can always call the district office if you don't see it, just call the district office and we'll make sure that everyone knows when it's gonna be. Okay, thank you.
And that newspaper article also ought to say that this survey is gonna go home, because if the kids there, like my kids, that you're not gonna see it as a parent. You're not gonna get that survey.
I mean, will it be published on the website, this survey, so we can download it?
Well, put it this way, usually with the elementary, you do get excellent response. It's when you send it home in the middle high school that kind of gets lost somewhere.
Yes,
Just for clarification, we're gonna send a survey out on Friday,
By Friday.
by Friday,
With the students.
with the students. Are we gonna put together a committee?
once we get the survey.
I'm just getting information back from the audience
Yeah,
that,
'cause who's gonna
that
read
they're
these
looking for
surveys?
information on a
Right.
committee.
I think we're looking at two different issues, okay? Yes, we are going to put together a committee that would, and as I said,
volunteers tonight?
well, we're going to take a look at the surveys first, and, because I want to make sure that you have,
No, what are 35 compared to 150?
no, you would have two that would be morning and two that would be afternoon, so you'd have both sides present. But the other thing that we're looking at, Carrie, I think you were bringing up, is having an informal meeting. That can take place anytime. I have no problem with that. If you want to do it 2 or 3 nights a week, that's fine. My nights are free. You know, and that kind of discussion can take place anytime. Yes.
Perhaps on the survey, we could ask for people if they would like to be on the committee to further study. That'd be a good place for them to send it back and.
Just say yes.
Now, is the committee also going to follow up on the teachers? The RTI program, from everything that's on the website and from different schools, the RTI program is a program where the teacher sees that a child is having difficulties. They refer them to the next step and then to the next step.
If they get past those 3 steps and go into 3rd grade, 5th grade, come up here to middle school, and they still fail, who's gonna be responsible for it then? The teachers or still the parents and the students?
If you look at the structure that we put into the RTI, basically, we are looking at intensive instruction at kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. So all the students who have minor difficulties or having learning problems should be resolved by the time they reach 3rd grade. There will always be that percentage that won't. Then that becomes the responsibility of the teachers, and they would be referred to Committee on Special Education, they would get an individual education plan, and then the process would continue. But if we can reduce the amount of students that are being identified, it will benefit us in the long run in many ways, because we are, as I mentioned before, our identification rate is extremely high. Samantha?
I know we're done, I just had a quick one. Is there a plan, I know this is sort of off topic, but as far as the middle school, RTI is for more geared towards elementary.
That's correct.
But is there a plan that we can see or hear about at this meeting as well for the middle
Absolutely.
school?
Absolutely.
And what the plan is to help those children right now?
Mhm. Right.
And what about the students that will be starting kindergarten? Will they also get surveys? The ones that will be starting kindergarten in 2007, 2008?
Because we have,
How will they get surveys? How will those
Yeah,
parents
yeah.
know?
Can the elementary schools go through the kindergarten registrations and
well,
mail
that's we
them?
probably would have to mail.
Could you post it on a website, survey?
Yes, but it doesn't mean that every kindergarten parent's gonna have access, so we probably would wanna mail them.
Mail them out.
But it could be either or listed in the article.
Well, I have a little guy starting kindergarten, so obviously I don't need it. So you might want to scan through to see who
Okay.
actually
Yeah,
has to receive
right.
the survey, who's not getting it from
Okay.
another child who's in school.
Okay,
I have one question for you. Bob, how are we gonna, let's say we have 45 parents that wanna be on the committee for AM, 95 for PM,
Or other,
or other.
for other?
How are they gonna be picked? Are we gonna put in a hat and pick them out? It's gotta be fair, because
Let-
everybody wants to be
Let
on.
them meet and pick their own leaders. Let them get together and pick their leaders.
that's a great idea.
Well, except that you would wanna make sure that you have the representative. I don't know, I think that's something we'll have to.
Well, that's something for you.
It's a process, it's a
You're
very
a parent to
important
think
process.
about too when you have your meetings and stuff.
We'll
It's a
all be
very
meeting
important-
together though, right? We're not segregating AM versus PM. We'll all meet together and be
No,
able to
it's
discuss
hard to have a work group of
But when you have the
40 or
work
50
group, the committee,
individuals.
if there's.
You know,
right.
You want to, maybe a dozen people.
Will the committee meetings be open
Well,
to
I think
anybody
that's-
else who wants to?
Well, and I think the informal meetings might help with that because some people might not want to be on the committee and
Right.
talk and be involved in that kind of stuff. So maybe the informal,
Informal
Meetings
meetings will be open
will
to
help
everybody,
with that.
but the committee meetings will probably be just
Maybe some
committee
answers
members,
get
so that they can actually take a
resolved
look, if they need
there.
input from anyone else.
They will be public meetings, but the public won't participate.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
And one other point, if I could, it should be, that committee should be kind of equalized as far as representation. If you've got 3 times as many at one end as the other end, you shouldn't have 2
Well,
and
that's why I
2.
said
You
two,
should be,
two, 2 and 2.
yeah, but what you're gonna get is 2 people representing a quarter and 2 people representing 3/4. It should kind of be a weighted vote as to how many people are on that committee. If you got more people that want one extreme, then they should have more people on that committee.
I guess, and I do understand where you're coming from, Calvin. However, I would hope that the reason to have people from each end is not necessarily for who they're representing, but for them to be able to share what the concerns are of their particular group. And then when the committee meets, they take a look at all the concerns and they try to work with something that hopefully everybody can agree to, and then they can bring it back and forth. So
You
that-
want people on the committee with open minds, not going in there with a set decision.
Oh, I don't want to be on the committee then.
and I know you mentioned earlier about the committee and that you would have 2 from, 2 for AM.
That was a
2 for PM
suggestion,
or-
yeah.
Or something along those lines. And I know you mentioned people from the board. What about teachers as well?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
yeah.
Give
Stakeholders.
teachers, yeah, well, we're all stakeholders.
Yeah, I
Kids,
know,
us,
but I
everybody.
mean representation from each of the stakeholder groups.
Correct.
Okay, moving on. Can I have a motion accepting the previous minutes from our special budget meeting on March 27th and the regular April 3rd meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a recommendation presenting to the voters of the district at the annual district meeting the following propositions for their consideration? At the request of Moores, Rouse's Point, and Champlain Library trustees, recommend including a separate proposition increasing the amount for each of the 3 local libraries from $7,500 to $7,800.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A proposition to purchase 5 school buses not to exceed $430,000 and 2 7-passenger vans not to exceed $46,000 and to finance same in annual installments for a period of 5 years.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I want a question.
Okay.
Are
Sorry.
these vans going to be handicap accessible?
You're talking about wheelchair things? I'm not sure, I don't think they all are, but I think they're probably, I can't think. The vans, yeah. I don't think it's a real bad.
So what are they going to be used for?
The transport students back and forth.
But not handicap?
No, right, but you have a lot of trips that go back and forth, both.
Okay.
Okay.
Now that probably going to
Bob, quick question.
these vans and stuff are going on state contract. You did?
Yeah, we did, and we offered that. I know what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend acceptance of the petition for the following members of the Board of Education to fill Term A, the 5-year term for our present incumbent, Silva Mary Marnes. Petitions have been received from Samuel Blaine, Lynn Grovine, Paul LaValle, and Daniel Luterna.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, just a minor point of discussion. I want you to know that I watched Eileen, and she did scatter them all up, and just because they came out in alphabetical order, it was not intended that way.
Really? That's amazing. Buy a lottery ticket. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend hiring a school counselor to meet the middle high school counseling needs 2 days per week at a rate of $135, beginning April 23rd.
Per day.
I'm sorry, per day. Beginning April 23rd through June 22nd, 2007. This will be funded by title money that was designated for adventure-based counseling.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
And we really need this because we do not have sufficient personnel to do this, especially since we're going into the annual reviews, and we need to use our people in there, so this would make up that difference.
What was the rate of payment?
135.
130.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend accepting the letter of resignation received from Carolee Barber, school counselor, effective June 29th, 2007, and request authorization to post.
So moved with regret.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend approval of the BOCES final request for services for the 2007-2008 school year.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend amending the April 3rd, 2007 minutes, correcting the bill amount for Collins and Scoville Architects, PC, from $61,995 to $63,020.27, which includes the reimbursable expenses.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend approving roof scans proposal in the amount of $12,900 for the following services: infrared and nuclear roof moisture surveys, roof inspections, roof condition surveys, certified asbestos testing. There are soft costs that will be applied to the $22,500, I'm sorry, $22,500,000 project.
Second?
Discussion.
Yeah, we need to have this done because right now they're looking at all the conditions of the roofs and they need to have someone be able to go into 2 or 3 different layers to see what conditions they're in and what we will need to do.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend approval of the $6,000 fee for $6,000 fee for WPS Consulting Engineers for services provided for the installation of the middle school boiler with burner and cover. Reused final payment to be paid by June 30th, 2007.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Anything else? Then I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss one matter related to collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, and matters related to the employment history of 3 individuals.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? We do not expect to be coming back and taking any action after the executive session. Once again, thank you for coming.